Alright, Tigers, how are we? My buddy has joined me here. He wants to sit here for a podcast. Here's his dog. He's taking a nap. See, there he is. Okay, that's it. It's kind of funny, huh? So, two things. Hopefully the test went well yesterday. Couple of things. Let's look at the lesson plans. Now, guys, as always, the lesson plans are always uploaded in Blackboard under remote learning. So just go there and everything is linked to what you need. And anything I give you will also be linked here as well. Okay, so the other thing I've started to do is, guys, I've started to put the YouTube links in here. So if you can watch them right here. So they're listed here. They're listed in the scroll. So I really don't want to hear any issues of not knowing what to do. You guys are old enough. You can send an email if you're confused about something going on. Okay. If you haven't turned in the Google form, the failure of the 1970s, you can. Take it out of your mouth. Don't put it back in. And then the other thing is, here's a PDF. It's 13 pages. We're going to do a little bit of, I found a good open source text to use a little bit because you're just not getting as much with me at that time. So it's all in Reagan's first term. So by Friday, I'd like to have this read because on Friday, there's going to be a bit of a multiple choice quiz on that point. Okay, so it'll be 10 to 15 points, nothing major at that point. So as we complete things, I'm going to post the Quizlet today. Once I get done with this podcast, I'm going to post the Quizlet. You guys can do learn flashcards test, and I'm probably going to change this to Monday the 6th. Okay, to that point. But focus today, guys, is world terrorism and a couple other domestic things that went on. We're going to hit domestic policy hard tomorrow with issues that arose at that time, and then Friday, dealings with the Soviets in Reagan's first term. So we're going to get to that point going on. Are you showing your Moana necklace? Make way, make way. All right, so here we go, right? So the focus today starts, guys, with Iran hostage. This is the only administration, guys, we're going to do first term and second term. Okay, normally it's, when we do our notes, it's foreign policy and domestic policy, or domestic and foreign, whatever the case may be. Reagan's presidency is so different first term to second term that we're going to do slightly different at this point going on. Okay, so the 52 hostages that were held by the Iranians for 444 days are going to be released on Reagan's first day in office. As Reagan is taking the oath of office, the hostages are already on a plane coming back. Now, reason for that was twofold. One, the Iranians hated Carter, and they held those hostages all the way through so that it was sort of a slap in the face to Carter. Two, now this is rumored, but the rumor was that Reagan threatened the Iranians. Going to that point, you're tapping on my arm. So stop. I'm doing a recording throughout. Okay. So one of the things that we talked about a little bit is this idea of the economy, and I want to lead into this now so we have this clear. Okay. So one of the things that we talked about being the ultimate Republican is a way to sort of spur the economy. Now, one of the ways to spur the economy, guys, is to cut taxes. We're going to go into a little more detail about this tomorrow. Okay. But this idea of by massively slashing taxes to the top tax bracket, eventually it will cause those individuals to spend. And when people at the top spend, it will then create opportunities for the middle class. And then the middle class will be able to spend, and that'll create jobs for the lower class. Okay? Now, this belief is called, or was nicknamed, voodoo economics in the campaign by George H.W. Bush, who was battling with Reagan for the nomination in 1980. When Reagan, beat Bush, Bush sort of dialed back his criticism. It's basically trickle down, big tax cuts to the top that sort of work their way all the way down. Okay? So the question is, how does it help the economy? It should massively increase spending. So when that occurs, guys, and consumer spending starts to ramp up because inflation rates were high, interest rates were high, we're going to talk about all these things at this point. Eventually, they're going to settle around 4%, which is a lot better than what they were at that time. Okay? Unemployment was at 7.5%, and it's going to start to trickle down to about 5%. Now, a lot of that's going to be government spending. We'll talk about that later, right? But this is a great example of one of the goals of the ultimate Republican by this major tax cut, and see all the jobs that are created this time. So what you could see is, early on in the 60s, guys, the tax rate was a lot higher. Then it dropped a little bit, then it dropped a little bit, and then it really dropped a little bit, okay, and then went up a little bit under Clinton. We'll talk about that later, and where it's gone to that point since then. Okay? So, one of the other things that occurs, guys, is the construction of the military. And we'll go into more detail about this as well, but you can see what happened to military spending. It doubled, basically, under Reagan. And 600 new ships, 15 new aircraft carriers. We have more than the entire world put together. Also, an increase in our nuclear arsenal, and more special forces, Green Berets, Delta Force, to go in and do some things. So this all sort of comes to a head, guys, with this focus on terrorism. We talked about terrorism in the 1970s with the formation of the PLO and the hijacking of those things going on. Okay, so all these terrorist events sort of pop starting in '83. A bomb went off in a Beirut marketplace, a bazaar, okay, in April of '83, killing 46, including 16 Americans. With that being the case, Reagan sent in the Marines. Beirut has been a problem housing terrorists, especially Hezbollah, for years. So, unfortunately, however, a few months into our occupation within Lebanon, a terrorist, guys, drove a truck full of plastic explosive filled with shrapnel, ball bearings, nails, things of that nature, into the middle of our Marine barracks right here. Detonated it, and shrapnel just flew out like a giant Claymore mine. Guys, we lost 241 Marines in one night. Here you could see President Reagan arriving at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware to look at the rows and rows and rows of caskets. If you start counting, guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I think it's 15. So, guys, imagine 15, and then 15, and then 15. All these bodies in this hangar, guys. Reagan said that's enough. And in '84, he pulled the troops out. Okay, basically, we were bankrupt because of those major tax cuts that we had at that time. And there was an election upcoming, and he didn't need to be in a conflict over here at this time. We weren't going to win at that point, so we came out. 85, a TWA flight. TWA does no longer exist anymore as an airline, but was flying from Athens to Rome. It was hijacked. Okay, one U.S. Navy diver was killed on board on the flight. October of '85, the cruise ship, the Aquile, not a Chile. Like, oh, hey, look, it must be a Chile outside. No, Aquile, right, was hijacked. 69-year-old Leon Klinghoffer was killed by the PLO. They found out he was an American Jew, and they threw him overboard, and he was chopped up by the friggin' propeller. Oh, God. Okay? Now, the terrorists tried to escape via a seaplane, and a aircraft carrier in the area ordered F-14s. We caught most of the terrorists, except for one. His name was Abu Abbas, who we caught in Iraq in 2005, I believe. I can't remember if that's the exact year or not. But we said, hello, because we've been looking for you for a while. So the important point is this. These terrorist attacks are starting to take place in a much larger way. So Reagan addresses this issue, guys, with this statement. This is very important. Terrorists are everywhere. You can run, but you can't hide. And basically Reagan is saying, if you are a terrorist, we're going to find you, and we're going to hunt you, and we're going to kill you. Is basically what this is saying. This is a lead-in to the Bush Doctrine that we'll get to under George W. coming soon here. Okay? The one that caused the most, or the largest response by the United States was a bombing of a West Berlin nightclub, a discotheque, right? In '86. Now, we originally thought it was the Libyans. So here you can see our guy over here. Looks like a wax figure of Gaddafi. Okay, you can spell Gaddafi in multiple ways. Could be a Q, could be a K. We'll get into that a little bit deeper, okay? And a little bit deeper a little bit later. I'm sorry, my bad. Right? So, 1 killed, 60 wounded. In response, guys, we sent 55 planes to bomb Libya in an operation called El Dorado Canyon. And we pummeled them. Power lines, hydroelectric plants, bridges, infrastructure. bombed the living hell out of them. How do you write that letter? Like, how do you say, sorry for bombing your country, my bad, Ronnie? I mean, we later found out it was the Syrians. It was a major intelligence failure at the time. So did we then bomb Syria? Yeah, absolutely we did, right? The issue is, the Libyans then responded in December of 88. A passenger plane, Pan Am 103, was flying over Lockerbie, Scotland. And somebody had a Walkman. I don't know if you guys know what a Walkman is. You should probably, I think. But it had a little bit of explosive in the Walkman. Was acting like they were listening to music, took the Walkman, put it up to the window of the airplane as it was in mid-flight, pushed a button, and it blew up over Scotland. Everybody was killed on board, including a couple of people from Pittsburgh. In response, Reagan starts to strengthen security at U.S. airports by installing metal detectors at every single airport. And this is important because there have been 2 times in U.S. history where we've massively ramped up security in terms of travel. Pan Am 103, 9/11. Okay? Hopefully this has been a good lesson for you. Lila's been very good playing with her Connects blocks in the back, and I apologize for a little bit of Taylor Swift in the back. It is what it is. I'll see you on Thursday. Have a great day. Go Tigers.